Our entire world is basically built on software. From the apps on our phones to the systems running our hospitals, it's everywhere. But what happens when that software breaks? Well, in this explainer, we're going to uncover the absolutely astronomical price of digital failure, and maybe more importantly, how you can avoid paying. So let's just ask the big question right up front. What's the real cost? I'm not talking about for just one company, but for an entire economy. What's the total price tag for every single software bug, every missed deadline, and every failed project, all added together? The answer is, well, it's pretty staggering. A recent report from the Consortium for Information and Software Quality found that the annual cost of bad software in the US alone has hit an estimated $2.41 trillion. Yeah, that's trillion with a T. That number, 2.41 trillion, is so big it's kind of hard to even wrap your head around. So, let's put it in perspective. If all the money lost to software failures was its own country, its economy would be one of the largest in the world. We're talking bigger than the entire GDP of Italy. Wow! So let's dig into this. Where on earth does a number that big even come from? What are the pieces that make up this multi-trillion-dollar glitch in our system? Okay, so this massive cost isn't just one thing. You've got your obvious operational failures, right? Like a system crashing and losing money by the minute. Then there's the huge cost of just keeping old, outdated legacy systems on life support. And of course, projects that just fail completely, burning through cash with nothing to show for it. But the two biggest monsters in the room are cybersecurity breaches and this silent killer called technical debt. That's basically the compounding cost of all the shortcuts you take today that you will have to pay for tomorrow. And that brings us to a really crucial point. We know the cost is huge, but you can't solve a problem until you understand why it's happening in the first place. So let's dissect the anatomy of these failures. I mean, think about it. We've been developing software for decades. So why are projects still going over budget by an average of 189%? Why do more than 30% of projects just get canceled before they're even finished? Well, it turns out the problem usually isn't technical. It's human. The first culprit is something psychologists call the planning fallacy. It's just our natural, built-in tendency to be a little too optimistic. So when an engineer says a project will take 6 to 9 months, what does the executive team hear? They hear 6 months, and they budget for it. The project is already set up to fail before anyone's written a single line of code, all because we ignore the massive uncertainty that comes with any complex project. Now, this second psychological trap is the sunk cost fallacy, and this one is especially dangerous when you're talking about old tech. This is the whole throwing good money after bad problem. You've got an organization with a legacy system that's slow, it's insecure, and it's holding the business back. But they just can't let it go. Why not? This quote just nails the mindset perfectly. The amount of money already spent feels so huge that walking away seems wasteful. So instead of making the bold, correct move to modernize, companies get trapped. They keep pouring resources into a dying system, which stops them from investing in the very innovation they need to survive and grow. Okay, so this human psychology has a direct impact on a huge decision every company faces. Should you build your own custom software or just buy a subscription to a service? Each path has a totally different risk profile. Buying a service, or SaaS, has a low upfront cost, but you're just renting. You face never-ending fees, and you never own it. Building has a high upfront investment, but you own the asset. The risk here shifts from being locked into a vendor to just execution risk. And that is where the planning fallacy can really, really bite you. So, with such high execution risk and our own brains practically working against us, how can anyone hope to succeed? Well, the software industry came up with an answer, a whole new way of working, designed specifically to manage that risk. It's called Agile. The old way of doing things was called waterfall. It was like building a bridge. You'd spend months on a super rigid plan, then months building, and only at the very end would you find out if it was actually what you needed. All the risk was hidden until it was way too late. Agile just flips that entire model on its head. It's built on transparency, delivering little pieces of working software in short 2-week sprints. So instead of one big bang at the end, you're constantly adapting. And progress isn't measured by checking tasks off a list, but by real working software that the client can actually see and touch. And that's really the key thing to get about Agile. It's not really about being faster, it's about controlling risk. By forcing everyone to be transparent and creating these constant feedback loops, it makes it almost impossible to hide a failing project. You know you're off track in a matter of weeks, not years.
So, Agile fixed everything, right? Problem solved? Well, as it turns out, just adopting a new buzzword isn't the same as actually mastering it. Agile came with its own set of hidden traps.
And the answer, according to research from the Project Management Institute, is a big, resounding no. Just going agile doesn't guarantee a thing if you don't address the underlying risks of the team and the organization itself. That research points to 4 major risk areas. First, team demographics. Is your team just too big or too spread out geographically? Second, skill set. Does the team actually have the tech skills and the agile experience they need? Third, culture. Does management really truly empower this way of working? And finally, dependencies. Are you counting on outside teams or vendors that could become a bottleneck? Any one of these can completely derail a project, no matter how good your intentions are. So let's recap. If the old way of making big upfront plans is broken, and even the industry's new solution, Agile, has its own pitfalls, what's left? How do we actually master the real risk of investing in software?
The truth is, success isn't about picking one methodology over another. It's about a fundamental shift in your entire mindset. You have to stop thinking like you're commissioning a single construction project and start thinking like a portfolio manager at an investment firm. And this portfolio approach has 4 key parts. First, you diversify your risk. You mix low-risk subscriptions with high-reward custom software. Second, you control your assets. For anything custom you build, you demand to own the intellectual property. Third, you adapt to control risk. You use Agile for its real purpose, transparency. And finally, you manage your downside. You properly vet your partners and you harden your infrastructure. At the end of the day, it really comes down to this. Investing in software is not a passive activity. If you're a leader, your number one job is to actively manage risk, financial, technical, and operational, at every single step of the way. You can't just write a check and cross your fingers. And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. Look at how software gets built in your own organization. Are your processes actually designed to find and reduce risk early and often? Or are they accidentally creating it, hiding problems until it's far too late? The answer to that question could be worth trillions.